It's namaste to all future software engineers and entrepreneurs out there. If you have gone through the last session of mine where I was having a chat with one of the members from a startup team, then he was telling me the problems which he was facing during the development of a product. So, even if the person is very good programmer, then there are chances that he is not able to deliver a good product. How? So, if the process is not followed, then there are very less chances that the product which is getting built will be a correct one, will be a reliable one. So, what we want is we want to build a good software which is going to create some value to a person. So, this is the subject which is going to give you the platform to learn how you can build a good software. So, there are many characteristics for a good software. We are going to talk about them one by one. So, today to start with, in this session, we are going to talk about unit number 1, which is Introduction to Software Engineering, and right now we are just going to focus on nature of software. So, if you see, the software is taking on dual role today. It is a product and at the same time it is the vehicle for delivering a product. You would ask how? So I can give you the example. So for example, you are writing a C program in one editor, in one of the many editors which are available. NetBeans is one of them. So you are using NetBeans, which is a software itself, to create a calculator program which will be used by some shopkeeper. So here NetBeans can be considered as a vehicle which is helping you to create calculator program which is a product. So you must agree now that it is a product as well as vehicle for delivering a product. The second characteristic of the software is software delivers the most important product of our time, and that is information. You open any application, you work through any website, and you will be flooded with the information. We can just take example of Arogya Setu app, which is launched by our government. So that app is helping you to keep track on whether you are safe or not. So it has got information like what is the test which you can go and take, how you can sew the mask, how you can keep yourself protected, how you can keep your family protected, and there are n number of things which it provides you as information. The third characteristic is the software industry has become a dominant factor in the economics of industrialized world. I do not think I need to give example here, but I would like to give it. So if you observe today's scenario, without software industry, it wouldn't have been possible for anybody of us to work from home. So it is creating the dominant factor in the economics of industrialized world. You take any field and you will find out that there is no single field which is not affected by the software, be it agriculture, be it banking, be it finance, be it education. Everywhere the software has touched it and made it a better world. So what is the software? So the formal definition of software says software encompasses instructions, that is computer programs, that when executed provide desired features, functions and performance. Data structures that enable the program to adequately store and manipulate the information. And the third one, documentation, which describes the operation and use of the programs. So example, we will take the same example of calculator. So when you deliver the calculator as a product to a shopkeeper, it has got the instructions. You have got used very simple data structures as how you are going to store the addition, how you are going to store the subtraction, where you are going to keep it, and how you are going to manipulate it. So consequently it has happened that the shopkeeper is performing addition, after that subtraction, and many more operations together. So how that will be handled? By creating some space. So that space is data structures, and of course you have to give a one page, at least a one page, which is describing how the software or how that product calculator will be used. Without that, the user is not going to understand it. Okay, so this is about software. Now we are going to talk about the characteristics of software which are making it different from the hardware. So what hardware is? The very basic example of hardware is the keyboard which we are using. So there is difference between creating a keyboard and creating a software which will give me the feeling of having virtual keyboard. So that virtual keyboard is a software, and then I have a hardware part which is actual keyboard where I can type and I can see my results getting typed over the screen. So there is difference between creating these two things. So we can say that the first characteristics is software is developed or engineered. It is not manufactured in the classical sense. So the keyboard, physical keyboard, is the hardware which has got a way of manufacturing it. But that same way we cannot apply to software, because software is totally different. Okay? If we apply the same mechanism, then it might create the quality problem. The second characteristic is software doesn't wear out. So the physical keyboard which I have, after few years some keys might not work. It might happen that some keys, even if I do not press, are getting continuously pressed. So n number of such problems can occur when we take example of the hardware, but that doesn't apply to software. Yes, software deteriorates because of changes, but like hardware, it is not going to wear out. So to better understand this, we will go to this diagram and we will understand how these two fail. So if you observe the first diagram, you will see that this is the failure curve for hardware. If you observe, this curve is called as bathtub curve. So on x-axis we are showing time, and on y-axis we are showing the failure rate. So initial time, the failure rate for hardware is very high. It is called as infant mortality. So in the beginning phase of creating any hardware, what happens is it might not get created correctly. So after some trials, it is the nice product which has been created and the failure rate is decreasing. And at certain point of time we will find out that it is now steady. So what happens is the product which we have manufactured is used by all, nicely used by all. But after some time, due to environmental changes, temperature, it again starts wearing out. So physical hardware is getting weared out, it is getting deteriorated. Now we will see it about the software. So what happens is, again on y-axis we have got failure rate and on x-axis we have got time. So like hardware, initially the thing which we have created may have got a highest failure rate. So what we have created is not actually as it is accepted by our customer. So this is its idealized curve. So what we want is, after some initial phases of failures, with time we want the software to be stable. Okay, so this is how it works. But in reality what happens is, the moment some change comes, the failure rate is getting increased. Again it is stable. Again with some change, drastically it has collapsed. So this is how lifetime of software goes. And the third characteristic is, although the industry is moving toward component based construction, most softwares are continued to be being custom built. So there are some examples for component based construction such as standard screws and off the shelf integrated circuits. So they can be used as it is while I develop the next product. But what happens in reality is, even if we take the very basic example of attendance monitoring system, so there are certain components which we can use as it is. But what happens is, as per demand of each college, the attendance monitoring system is going to vary. Okay, its graphical user interface is going to change, the windows, pull down menus, libraries, everything will be changed from the previous attendance monitoring system which we had created. So these were the characteristics. Now we are going to talk about software application domains. So here we will take a break of 5 minutes. So welcome back. Now we are going to talk about software application domains. Now why it is important to understand these domains? It is because what we are trying to build is belonging to which category that we have to understand. So the first one is system softwares. So the compilers, editors, file management utilities, operating system, everything comes in this category of system softwares. Then we have got second category as application softwares. So these are standalone programs which are built for specific need. So I have got Microsoft Word application and that belongs to this category. So the purpose is, it is there to help me to create the documents. Then the third category is about engineering or scientific software. So these are the software which are created for specific engineering purpose or scientific purpose. As the name says, these are characterized by number crunching algorithms. So example can be automotive stress analysis, molecular biology, orbital dynamics. The very basic example which you would understand is the CAD software, which is specifically created for creating designs by mechanical engineers. The next category is embedded softwares. So these reside within a product or system. So we can take example of keypad control for the microwave oven, refrigerator, then washing machine, then digital function of a dashboard display in the car. So these software belong to this embedded software category. The next in line are product line softwares. So these focus on a limited marketplace to address mass consumer market. So for example, word processing application, graphics, database management systems. So the LMS system which we are going to use for learning can be considered as the example of product line software. Then we have got web applications. So these are network centric software. As the Web 2.0 has emerged, more sophisticated computing environment is supported, which is integrated with remote database and business applications. So here I am going to give you one assignment which is about finding out whether after Web 2.0 some versions of web has emerged or not, and you have to give me the list of where it has stopped. So whether we have got Web 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, 6.0, where it is lasting. The next category is artificial intelligence software. So these use non-numerical algorithms to solve complex problems. So the example applications are robotics, expert system, pattern recognition, game playing, etc. So you know that artificial intelligence is the talk of the town nowadays. So what we want is, we want the software to take decisions on behalf of users. So this is the category of software. So we have seen this 7 basic categories of application domains. I have created this schematic so that you remember it well. So if you observe it, we can start with this system software and application software. Then you remember it as engineering or scientific software and embedded software. So system softwares, application softwares. If there is a system, you will be able to run the application. Then engineering softwares are created specifically for people like us, and there are embedded softwares. So it is there in our car. Then we have got these 3 different categories as web applications, product line softwares, and artificial intelligence software. So at this point of time, I would like to tell you that we may be asked in an interview or in the exam paper about the 7 categories of software application domains. So I hope this schematic helps you to remember it well, and once you remember it, then it would be easier for you to give the examples of them. So here again I am going to give you one more assignment, where what I expect from you is you have to write down 5 examples for each of the 7 categories which we have discussed. Okay, and for your exercise purpose, you just draw the schematic diagram once so that it helps you to retain it better. Then we are going to talk about some new categories in the software domain. So the first one is open world computing. So these are the software systems that allow mobile devices, personal computers, and enterprise systems to communicate across vast network. So I'll give the presence of these applications will not be noticed by you. So this might happen. So the example would be, in this scenario, I had heard a news that some country government has created one application which is going to track each of its citizen, where they go, what is their health record. So there is a chip which is embedded in the body of the person, and it is going to keep the record of everything they do, what action they take, what is their bodily parameters measurement, where do they go, what is their location. Everything will be captured and it will be communicated to the government application. So this is how every citizen's data is sent over the network, and the organization is going to analyze it and they are going to take some decisions based on it. Okay, so this was the example of open world computing. Then there is a net sourcing category, which says it is the practice of renting access to centrally managed business applications. So what happens is, you must have observed that there are people who have got their email as their company's domain. So for example, my email ID is sachdehnidhi@sanjeevani.org.in. So this is the mailing domain which has been created by some organization for our college. So what has happened is, they have rented this web domain for us so that the employees can use it efficiently and they can communicate among each other. So the application which come under this category are called as net sourcing application. And then there is one more category as open source software. So what happens, as you all know, the free source code is available with the software which we get. So the example is Linux operating system. So the community gets the access to the source code. So we know that it can be considered as blessing, or it may be considered as a potential curse. Now how it can be considered as potential curse? It is because the source code is available, and because the code is not secure, because it is openly available, the largest data breaches in history has been occurred due to the exploitation in open source code, which has led to huge financial payouts. So these can be considered as the blessing, or it may be considered as the curse. So these are some of the categories which we have discussed, and this is the book which I am going to refer throughout our course, which is written by Roger Pressman. The book is Software Engineering, a Practitioner's Approach, and the chapter which I have referred is Software and Software Engineering. So see you in the next class. By that time, I hope you go through the assignments, the questions which I have given you, and enjoy the session. Remember, software engineering is going to stay with you throughout your life. And here we end. So thank you and namaste.